the next few hours, keeping a very, very keen eye on. Right now, we're going to move to a different story altogether. This is an international story. Let's take a look. Amid the continuing situation in Gaza, where as we speak, the death toll has now crossed 13,000 people, according to Palestinian health officials. A BRIC summit that was convened virtually to discuss the situation in Gaza, the Israel-Hamas situation, as we're discussing. And in that meeting, we're learning that President Xi of China has openly advocated, number one, for Palestine. So these are a few different points. Firstly, he's openly said in support of Palestine that there is no condemnation of Hamas action. He's also said that attacks on civilians must end. Importantly, he's also said that the hostages need to be released. Now, what Indian government sources have to say on that, that's what we're going to bring you in just a second. We're also going to talk a little bit more about what took place in that summit and what the takeaways were. Let's go over to my colleague Anand Narasimhan to understand more. Anand, I believe Indian government sources are calling the Chinese president's statement a double standard of sorts. Can you explain to our audiences why they're saying that?
Well, it's quite rich coming from the Chinese, isn't it? That they're talking about freedom of expression and freedom of civilians and trying to play one against the other. Now, this is something which is like whenever you are in that kind of a grouping, you say what they need to hear. But the fact of the matter is, look at China's own treatment of Uyghurs and how they're treating them in East Turkestan. I saw in person and met families of people who have lost their loved ones to detention, and they have an internment which they have not been able to see them for about 2-3 years now. And I met them recently when I was in the US. So there's a huge furor about how the CCP and the PLA have treated Muslims on their own backyard. And now they're trying to create a divide within the Arab nations while playing one against the other. China has huge investments in Israel and always has called Israel a trusted partner. And today, now it is trying to play this geopolitical grouping by inciting Iran, Qatar, and trying to back them. Iran on the other day had even exalted and urged China to intervene and take a position. So clearly, the fact of the matter is that there is a tussle within the OIC. And there are nations like Turkey, Qatar and Iran which have tried and wrest control from the likes of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan and Egypt. But and China now has increased its commitments and it's increased its presence in Iran as it takes a far greater adversarial position vis-a-vis the US. So there is a greater geopolitical game. And point is that now the Chinese even view Bharat as competition because Bharat is aligning with nations which have wisened up to the Chinese hegemony and its debt-trap diplomacy, and they are wanting to move away and clearly looking at China plus one or anywhere but China kind of options. So given all of that, it's quite rich coming in from Xi Jinping, but the Indian agencies are looking at it from the point of view that he's just making the right noises based on the audience that presents itself in front of him. And the other aspect is that they have failed to walk the talk in their own backyard, so they are nobody to lecture anyone else.
Okay. All right, Anand, thank you for bringing us those details. It's time right now for a short break. On the other side, in just a few minutes, we return. This is The Nation at 5. We'll continue to bring you all of the country's top stories right here at this hour.